Ghana, we have the Professor of Economics, Space University, Professor Adeniyi, to analyze what the Minister just poured out. Glad to have you, John.
Thank you,
well,
Andy.
The Minister was just preaching about the fact that Nigeria needs a good airport.
Yeah.
There's no doubts about whether Nigeria needs a renovated cars built from scratch. Well, but the question is the cost and priority. What do you make of the Minister's submissions on those two fronts?
Well, I think Festus Keyamo is a very forceful communicator and not very easy to interview. And at the point, I was actually sympathetic, sympathizing with you, but you managed to pin him down on with some questions. Nice one, But overall, I think no nation will be averse to any infrastructural project, especially a huge one, a significant one like an airport. And considering that the airport in Lagos that is in reference is about 50 years old, we all know that it's about time that it is renovated, or perhaps refurbished or upgraded, or reconstructed, like he tried to make us understand. But again, your question was valid when you were trying to ask him, is that what we should be doing at this time where there is mass poverty, where we should be focusing on maybe security and of course alleviating the pains of the people arising from the economic reforms that is supposedly ongoing. But I think what appears missing to me is first, I imagine that sometimes it may not be helpful for government to come up with these sums of money with these projects without giving us, maybe a heads up. There should be some kind of preparatory messaging in advance of this kind of project. It's something that we know should eventually come, but we did not know when it was going to come. And before now, there should have been some level of sensitization, so it should not just be like a bolt from the blue. And second, again, if you look at airports around us, even in Africa, Oliver Tambo in South Africa, Humford Boigny in Côte d'Ivoire, yeah. Then, of course, maybe Katoka in Ghana, And in terms of structure, in terms of maintenance, you will see that some of these airports are far better than ours, Ours is practically decrepit, like you said, derelict, poorly maintained. First, again, our maintenance culture in this country is very poor. That has rubbed off on that airport. And so if we are coming again to say we want to restart it anew, build it afresh, what's going to happen with the maintenance culture again? Are we going to continue with the kind of attitude that we're greeted, or that the airport that is about to be reconstructed, went through, in the last 50 years? It is possible that if our maintenance culture was probably better than it presently is, that this airport will still have been in a very good shape, like we see around Africa and even in some other parts of the world. And in some civilized societies, for instance, there are structures that are more than 1,000 years old. The Edinburgh Castle is nearly 800 years old. And we see university structures abroad, 800, 700 years old. Not because they have been reconstructed, but because of the culture of maintenance. We lack that in this climate. Perhaps I should also mention the third point. When we hear billions in this country, it's always frightening. It frightens us not because the projects on which they are committed are not needed, but because we wonder, on how those sums of money will be managed.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
What about the level of management? Will it be characterized with transparency and accountability and devoid of corruption? Will there not be diversion? And of course, are we going to be dedicated, to committing the sums of money, to the project that it is ordinarily meant for, as the case could be? So those are some of the things in focus. Sorry to, but again, those are some of the things in focus. But finally, infrastructural projects, often yield long-term economic effect, long-term economic benefit. But what happens in the short term? And that's the question that Minister Festus Keyamo will continue to labor to respond to.
Answer to. And again, the question of this approval was in total disregard of extant laws with no public breakdown of costs, which you have talked about a little bit, and no transparent procurement process.
But I thought I had him explain it. That's also very concerning. But he provided an explanation
about the fund,
yeah,
about
the
the
service
subsidy
rights,
fund.
dedicated fund. The presidents often have it has some a kind of dedicated funds that you can come into some special project. And he was talking about service-wide votes. When he was thanking you that you've not been in government.
Maybe Nigerians need to get that explanation,
you know,
because
yeah, and of course he drew a parallel with the second Niger bridge and all of that. Yes, I agree with you. We need some more explanation, really. And yes, yesterday I saw him on another television station. Channels Today is here, so he's doing his bit to explain. But beyond the explanation that the minister will give, perhaps some other levels of authority in his agency should also join him, so that we can have enough awareness created, and the questions can reduce. The citizens can invest more faith in this kind of project. All
right, we'll leave it there. Prof of Communications-Based University, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, for your analysis. We see what gives as time unfolds. Thank you so much for being on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, well, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.